The sunlight peeked through the curtains as Rachel Carter opened her eyes. It was the start of a new day, but it felt like any other. She stretched and sat up, looking around her neat little apartment. Everything was in its place, just the way she liked it. She got out of bed, put on her slippers, and headed to the kitchen to make her favorite cup of coffee. As the coffee brewed, she took a quick shower. Afterward, she sat by the window with her coffee, watching the world outside. People were walking, cars were driving by, and everything felt calm. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was Katie Adams, Rachel's best friend. Katie was Rachel's exact opposite. Vibrant, full of energy, always juggling a million things. They'd been friends since college, and despite the differences in their personalities, they balanced each other out. "Morning, lazy bones," Katie teased as soon as Rachel answered. "Up yet, or are you still daydreaming?" Rachel smiled, taking a sip of her coffee. "Barely. But I'm up. What's going on?" "You know, the usual," Katie replied, her voice full of energy. "I'm off today and was thinking, how about we meet up for lunch? It's been a while since we caught up in person." Rachel paused for a moment, thinking about her day. "Lunch sounds good, actually. I could use a break from work." "Great. Let's go to that cafe downtown, the one we love," Katie said excitedly. "I'll meet you there at noon." "Perfect," Rachel agreed, "but don't expect me to stay out too long. I still have to get back to work." "Work, work, work," Katie joked. "You're always so busy, Rach. You need to relax more." Rachel laughed softly. "I like being busy. You know me." Katie sighed playfully. "All right, Miss Routine, but today I'm not taking no for an answer. See you at noon." "See you then," Rachel replied, feeling more awake after their chat. As she hung up, Rachel finished her coffee and took one last glance out the window before getting ready for work. By 9 a.m., Rachel was at her office, a small design studio downtown. She was a graphic designer and loved her job. The office was quiet most of the time, which suited her perfectly. Rachel's desk was neat, with her laptop open and a cup of coffee beside it. She was focused on her latest project, a logo design for a local business. Her boss, Mr. Johnson, walked by her desk and nodded approvingly. "Good work on the latest design, Rachel. Keep it up." "Thank you, Mr. Johnson," Rachel replied with a small smile. She appreciated his straightforwardness. He didn't say much, but when he did, it was usually something positive. Later, her coworker, Tom, walked by and leaned against her desk. Tom was the office chatterbox, always with a story or some random joke. "Hey, Rachel," Tom said with a grin. "How's the logo coming along?" "It's almost done," Rachel replied, smiling back. "I just need to tweak the colors a bit." "Looks good," Tom nodded, glancing at her screen. "You're always so focused. How do you stay on track all the time?" "I guess I just like to keep things organized," Rachel said, shrugging. "It helps me get things done." "Wish I had your focus," Tom joked. "I get distracted by like everything." Rachel laughed softly. "I'm sure you'll get your project done in time." By noon, Rachel had managed to get away from her desk and meet up with Katie at a cafe down the street. Katie, with her blonde hair and bright personality, was already seated, waving as Rachel walked in. "There you are," Katie said, standing up to give her friend a quick hug. "I was starting to think you wouldn't make it." "I told you I'd be here," Rachel replied, sitting down and smiling. "How's your day going?" You know, same old," Katie sighed dramatically. "Work's boring, but I'm planning to go shopping after this. Want to come with me?" "You always want to go shopping," Rachel said, shaking her head. "I really need to get back to work after lunch." "Maybe this weekend?" "You're such a workaholic," Katie teased, picking up the menu. But fine, we'll save it for the weekend. As they ordered their food, Rachel felt relaxed. Conversations with Katie were always light and fun, and it gave her a break from the stress of her day. So, Katie said, raising an eyebrow, any plans tonight? Or are you going to spend another quiet evening at home? I actually have to go grocery shopping, Rachel replied. You know, my exciting life. Grocery shopping on a Friday night? Katie laughed. You really know how to live. Rachel smiled. Hey, someone has to keep the fridge stocked. By the time Rachel finished her work, it was already getting dark. She packed up her things and decided to stop by the supermarket on the way home. She needed groceries for dinner, and the store was close by. She liked doing her shopping in the evening when the store was quieter. The supermarket was familiar. She had her routine there too. First the vegetables, then the dairy section, and finally, snacks. Rachel wandered through the aisles, checking her list on her phone. As she reached for a bunch of bananas, she noticed someone standing too close to her. It was a man, about her age, with a worn-out jacket and a strange smile on his face. He was just a little too friendly. Excuse me, he said, his voice a bit too eager. Do you know if these bananas are fresh? Rachel glanced at him briefly and gave a polite smile. I'm not sure, she replied, feeling the hairs on her neck stand up. She quickly moved her cart to the next aisle, hoping the interaction was over. But as she walked through the store, something unsettling happened. Every aisle she turned into, the man was there. At first, she thought it was a coincidence. It's a supermarket, after all. People are bound to end up in the same places. But the uneasy feeling in her stomach grew stronger. She tried to ignore him, focusing on her shopping. But every time she glanced up, there he was. When she picked up a carton of milk, he appeared next to her, holding a carton of his own. When she looked at the cereal, he was there too, his eyes constantly on her. Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't normal. Something was off. At one point, she turned into the cleaning supplies aisle, hoping to lose him, but there he was again. This time, he tried to start another conversation. You come here often? He asked, his smile now feeling more like a smirk. Rachel forced a smile, trying to stay calm. Yes, sometimes, she replied, her voice shaky. Her mind was racing. What was he doing? Why was he following her? She hurried toward the checkout lanes, her heart pounding. She thought that maybe, just maybe, it was all in her head. Maybe he was just doing his own shopping. But when she reached the checkout line, her worst fear was confirmed. He stood right behind her. As she paid for her groceries, she could feel his eyes on her. Her hands shook slightly as she handed her card to the cashier. She needed to get out of there, fast. The store was full of people, but she felt completely alone. When Rachel grabbed her bags and headed for the exit, she hoped that would be the end of it. But as she stepped outside into the dark parking lot, her stomach sank. He was following her. The cool night air hit her face as she quickened her pace, her eyes darting around looking for someone, anyone who might help. The parking lot was mostly empty now, and her car felt like it was a mile away. Rachel's mind raced. Should she confront him? Should she run? Her heart pounded in her chest as she weighed her options. She didn't want to panic, but her body was telling her something was wrong. Very wrong. As she reached her car, she made a decision. She spun around, her eyes locking with his. Can I help you? She asked, her voice stronger than she felt. The man stopped, his expression shifting. His smile faded, replaced with something darker, something more dangerous. I was just trying to be friendly, he said, his voice now cold. You don't have to be rude. Rachel felt a surge of fear, but she didn't back down. "I don't know you," she said firmly, "and I don't appreciate you following me." For a moment, there was silence. The tension was thick, like the calm before a storm. Rachel glanced around the lot, praying someone would walk by, but no one was there. The man took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. "You're overreacting," he muttered, his voice dripping with anger. Rachel's heart raced. She didn't know what to do, but she knew she had to act fast. The man stepped closer, but before he could say anything else, a car pulled into the lot. It was her neighbor Mike, who worked as a night security guard. He had always told her, "If you ever need help, don't hesitate to call." "Everything okay here?" Mike asked, stepping out of his car. His presence was strong, and it was clear he wasn't going to let anything happen. The man's smile disappeared. He muttered something under his breath and quickly walked away into the shadows. Rachel let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Her hands were still shaking, but the fear was starting to fade. She turned to Mike and smiled weakly. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft but grateful. "No problem," Mike replied. "Glad I was here." As Rachel drove home, her mind raced with what had just happened. She had always felt safe in her daily routine, always knew what to expect, but tonight had been a reminder, things can change in an instant. She couldn't stop thinking about how close she had come to something dangerous, but she had done the right thing. She had stood up for herself, and she had asked for help. That night, as she locked her doors and checked the windows, Rachel knew one thing for sure. She would never take her safety for granted again. And from then on, she promised herself that if anything ever felt wrong, she would trust her instincts. Because in a world where anything can happen, it's better to be safe than sorry.